E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories, broadcasting and live streaming to millions of devices around the world, including Roku, and live streaming to Facebook Live, also on Amazon Fire TV, and to Twitch. Also, Android TV and Periscope. Broadcasting to Apple TV and YouTube Live. Proudly brought to you by our host, Donna, producer and host, Michaela Vidal, host and administrator, and Jim Grant, producer and host. Proudly brought to you by the 6minutewebinar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, how are you today? Things
I'm
smell
doing
like
great.
roses for you?
Oh, yeah. I'm always teasing Donna behind us in the studio there as the intro's playing, and I'm doing something goofy to crack her up because we have fun, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what? Laughter and having fun is good for you. It should be a lifestyle for you and your family.
It should be.
Yes, because laughter is one of the greatest things that you can treat your body with. And I mean, I tell people
it's amazing what it does for our insides, our immune system, and you know, it's a mood enhancer. And even though, you know, as we get older, we're like, oh my gosh, look at all my wrinkles. You know, when I smile, you can see all the wrinkles.
As we get what?
Right. But it takes like, I don't remember the exact number. I'd have to look it up, but I want to say like 8 less muscles to smile than it does to frown.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And when you add humor, and like I tell people, I laugh at myself because I've done some dumb things before, you know, in my life, like everybody else. But, you know, you learn to forgive yourself. You learn to laugh about it, you know, because everybody else has done the same thing.
Yep.
And to illustrate a real life incident that happened to me, it was up in Colorado Springs. And we had these, let's see, there was 3 ladies and 5 guys, 8 people in there. And that we had this big 2-story Airbnb. And we were up there in the month of January. We were doing the Pathway for Vets event. I was the MC and had all the other 7 people were the executive training directors. And we had this cookout, and we invited everybody over to the house because we had this beautiful Airbnb home, and it was just a gorgeous place. And we had people coming over for, you know, hamburgers and, you know, whatever. And they sent us to the store, 3 of us, to get some supplies. So on the way over, I told me and 2 other guys, I said, listen, let's just divide the list into 3s. We'll grab everything we need from our specific list. We'll meet back at the register, and then we'll get out of here. Okay. So one of the items on my list was beans. So I go into the bean aisle, and I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, well, do I want to get just one brand, one type of bean, or 2, or whatever? And I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, well, you know, I think I'll just get one type of bean, you know, whether it be whatever, pinto or whatever it is. And then I got thinking about, okay, how many people got da-da-da-da-da. And then it hit me. You got to be about 10, 11 people in this house in January in Colorado Springs. Windows going to be closed, doors going to be closed, and we're all going to be eating beans. And I got the giggles. And let me tell you what, if you're standing in a supermarket in the bean aisle and you got one hand on the shelf, you got one hand on your knee, you bent over and you're giggling, people are going to look at you like you weird.
Not that you know from personal experience, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm not making this up. And you know what else they did, Donna? Now, this is January 2019. They started practicing social distancing with me long before we ever heard of COVID-19.
Right.
But I tell that true story because it's funny, because it's something everybody can relate to. And it's true. I mean, that's just one incident in my life that I've done dumb things or made, you know, humorous things. But everybody has, but learn to laugh at it because
Oh,
what it does for the body. My goodness gracious.
makes it easier to get through life with laughter
Yeah.
instead of tears and anger.
Mm-hmm.
Much easier. Much easier.
Yeah. Where joy and jubilee live, pain and agony cannot live.
Right.
There's not enough room for both of them.
Well, you can't coexist in the same space.
Right. Right.
Right. So you have to make room for one, or you have to make room for the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's just pretty much the long and the short of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I choose, laughter and love every day of the week.
Oh, yes.
Twice on
yes.
Sunday.
Yeah, because anything that's bothering you, let it go.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about family today and kids and that sort of thing. But most importantly, if you love each other and you're willing to be open-minded and just, communicate
Right.
with respect,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to bridge a lot of the gaps in there. Because a lot of families, the kids look at dad, no, he's dumb,
Right.
I mean, that's what like I tell people, my dad didn't start getting real smart. I turned about 25.
Isn't that the truth, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But one thing I learned along the way with my own children, and I wish I had done more of it. I did do it, but I didn't do probably enough of is be okay with saying, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I made a mistake. Mommy's not perfect. I mean, I did do that. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But, as we get older, that 2020 vision comes in a little clearer, right?
Yeah.
And I think if I could have done that more, it would have been a much better thing for my kids.
Yeah, sure. And, because I grew up in a time when, parents said something, you
And that
didn't
was
question
it.
them. That was it.
Right.
And, I've told the story many times here on the TV, but it was true because it's amazing how people are in certain decades.
Yes.
I mean, because back in the 50s, what was dad's attitudes? They were, I use the example, which is true, like a lady might say to her husband, Horace, Johnny's over there, he's got a screwdriver. I'm afraid he's going to stick it in the wall receptacle and hurt himself.
He won't do it twice. He won't do it twice.
Yeah. And, I remember my sister-in-law talking about my little nephew when he was in the bathtub and he fell asleep in the bathtub and she was worried. She says, Ben, come in here and stay with him. Says, I'm afraid his head will dunk on the waters. He'll wake up. But see, that's just the way people were wired in those days.
Right.
And you think about some of the things that I said as a young dad in the 70s. I mean, I look back now and I think, and I thought it was the right thing to say.
Right. Well, and
really
that's just it. There is no playbook for parents.
Mm-mm.
Right. There is. I mean, if there was, boy, howdy, I'd like to be the first to invent it.
Yeah. And I tell you right now, I'd like to be the first guy to invent, some type of a natural pill for kids, teenagers, to make them intelligent. Now, man, I'd be a billionaire in about 29 seconds,
Right.
But the growing pains, and that's what we want to talk about today,
Yes.
is bridging that gap between what the kids want to do, what they don't want to do, and what you want to do as a parent, especially wintertime coming.
Right. And especially when you have different ages, that creates its own challenge. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, I was lucky. My children are pretty stair-step. Right. And so there's a 5-year difference between my oldest and my youngest. But all my children were really, really close. So, playing together wasn't an issue for my children. But for some folks, it can be, Jim.
Mm-hmm. It sure can. And, when it comes to communicating with your kid, every kid is different. Mm-hmm. And Donna and I were talking today about what we're going to, discuss on the show, because we don't use a script, because a script would be boring. And plus the fact, Donna and I, we both believe that when we are alive on the show here, like we are, and we are communicating, there is ideas that's going to come from the energy, from the love and abundance of the world, because I'm a firm believer, and I think Donna is too, that if something comes to our mind, it's for a reason. And
Absolutely.
that reason is there's someone out there that needs to hear it.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And Donna, how many times has something like that ever happened to you when a thought comes to you, you hadn't even been thinking about, and you just go ahead and go into it?
Right. More times than I can count.
Yeah. I mean, on every show, really, it really happens like that.
It does. It does. But, we were talking about this and really hope that you folks find it special and helpful. But, with fall coming up and then winter. So I know now I live in Arizona in the valley, so we don't get much fall.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of, those cactus don't drop leaves and needles too well. And it's still hot for us. I mean, it doesn't really start cooling down until usually December. But I mean, for us, we love it because it's like, it's only like 90 degrees, 100 degrees, and we're going, woo, this feels great. Mm-hmm. But, when my kids were little, we lived back east in Ohio. And Jim, I mean, there's so much to do. Decorating for fall is, I know at least where I raise my children is huge. I think just about every house, decorates for fall. It's a big deal. And I think because we know that we've got a long winter coming, so we want to enjoy what we can. And, then there's the bonfires and doing those kind of things. And we were talking about this, and in asking your kids, in talking to your children, one of the huge things is that get everybody involved. So even if you have one little one that does like something, and then you've got an older one and they kind of do the, mommy, I don't want to do that. But when it's their turn, they're going to want everybody to be involved. Mm-hmm. And so that is a really healthy way to look at it. But it also gets everybody involved in what really makes that other person, get excited and get their imagination and their juices going, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're exactly right, because when you were talking there, it reminded me of a time when I was an instructor in the Army Reserves, and to be able to, we had a guy coming in to be able to be awarded an MOS. You have to go through the course, and on the light side, you might say, "Well, duh, that makes sense." But we had a guy that was 50 level depot trained. And let me explain that a little bit. 10 level is at the unit, that's for maintenance. 20 level is battalion, 30 is brigade, 40 is division, 50 is depot. And depot's as high as you can go in maintenance. Okay. Between the U.S. Army and the vendor, the manufacturer. So I had a 50 level student in there taking a 10 level course. Now, to put that in proper perspective, this is like taking a certified mechanic and setting him in a class that, okay, folks, this is the dipstick and the engine. You wipe it off, you put the dipstick, and I'm not exaggerating. Right, because it's that basic. And you can imagine how the certified mechanic would be sitting there bored out of his tears, but he's got to take this course to be awarded that MOS. Right. So what I did, I went to him and I said, listen, I know what your training is. We're going to be in kindergarten here, and you're already a graduate of graduate school, okay? I do not want you to sit in this class and be a student. I want you to be assistant instructor. I have the authority to do that. And I'm going to use you under my leadership here. Yeah, because you got to be a certified instructor to be able to teach in the Army, okay? Right. But you can use AI as assistant instructors any way you can to enhance the training. Right. So what I had him do, I had him floating around the class, looking for trouble spots, students sitting there going, and have him chip in and help them to keep him engaged and involved in the training. And it worked like a charm. The reason I share that story, Donna, can you imagine how if one kid is very bright and, the other kid is, much younger, obviously wouldn't be as skilled, but using the older kid to help with the fun part of helping the younger kid, get him involved like that.
Right. That is, and that's the beauty of it, because it also teaches the older child, it teaches them, like you just said, it teaches them leadership. It teaches them patience. It teaches them gratitude, right? It teaches them how to give back, right? All the things that we want in our children.
And they're also a big part of it too. They're a big part of it.
Beautiful qualities, right? And so getting them involved is just a little bit of some imagination and having them help out. Or you could even say to the younger one, okay, it's your turn. What do you pick? Who's going to be your helper?
Yeah.
Who's going to be your helper? Who's going to help you put together this event we're going to do? So obviously if it's a little teeny one and they want to have a bonfire, it's got to be an older person who can handle that responsibility.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. And anything the younger kids wants to do, have an older kid, to kind of like supervise them and all that. And then the parent can find special ways to reward the older one for pitching in. And getting back to my scenario there of the student that was a level 5, and I'm teaching a 10 level course, he's at level 50 and I'm teaching a 10 level course. I brought him up in front of the class. And I want to personally thank him for his assistance, because that gave him recognition and appreciation. And also shared with him how appreciative I was that he helped my class be successful.
Right. That's exactly it.
Everybody likes a pat on the back, don't they, Donna?
Yeah, absolutely. So, those are some of the cool things. And of course, even if you want to set up, and I know that there's still some concerns with everything going on right now around the world with, the corona virus. So if you want to do it at home and you're not comfortable going out to a, fall festival, you can create your own fall festival.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Bob for apples, make caramel apples. And that is a fun event that you can get everybody involved in.
Yeah. And be sure and film it and then show the film later, because that's going to be funny.
Right. And especially as they grow, when I know when Jim was raising his kids, when I was raising my kids, we talked about this the other day, but for you younger folks, we didn't have the luxury of being able to pull out a phone this size and video it. I mean, it was an ordeal, and you had to have the camcorders first they had to be plugged in. Then they came with the battery. And then you had to lift weights for about 6 months in order to carry that sucker around because they were so heavy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because even the first cell phones,
oh my gosh,
they were just analog. And I remember mine; it was a Motorola 230 or 250, something like that. And it was kind of I mean, this thing would make a nice weapon, but it was just analog, and all you could do is call and receive calls. That was it. No texts, no nothing. Right. No pictures, If
I can get in front of the camera right. It was about this big, and it was about this thick, and it was about that wide.
Yeah. And you're riding down the road and you're talking on your cell phone, and some of them had a little antenna you had to pull up.
Yeah.
And some of them had the little antenna that you glued on the back of the on the car, the tail lid. And there was actually people, you could see it in the stores. They just go by the antenna clip, the little antenna sticks up about yay high, and clip it on the back of clipped on the trunk of the car and ride around and pretend that they had a cell phone. Do you remember that, Donna? Do you remember seeing those?
I do.
Oh,
I do.
yeah.
And I remember when I had my mom's soccer van,
Mm,
and we got our first phone in the van, and it
mm,
was wired into
hmm.
everything, right? So they had to pull
Yeah.
everything apart and wired it in.
Yeah.
And I remember it was funny because I had driven back to Arizona to see my
Hmm.
folks, and
Yeah.
I was showing them the phone in the van, and they were like, "Well, holy smokes, that's pretty impressive."
Yeah. Because that thing was bolted in, folks. You young kids, that thing was bolted in, and you reached down and you pulled it up and answered it was just like take an old wall phone. If you young
Yes,
folks know what I mean.
yes, it had the same kind of wire to it,
Yeah. And the same
cord.
kind of cord. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you take a wall phone, you young
the
guys
small,
can Google this and
right,
imagine that being set down, mounted on the hump of the car.
or
And
wherever they
someone,
could get it
yeah,
in. Yeah,
yeah. And someone call you, reach down, and
yeah,
that was the way our world turned. So, we came from a long ways because nowadays kids are so in tune with iPhones and iPads and all the electronics. But
yeah,
what happens is that even in my family, there are times that we're sitting there, all of us, when we're together, and everyone's on their cell phone individually.
right,
What does that say about us?
right.
We're very
So
poor in communicating.
right, and so here's another idea for anybody who's crafty in the family. If
Hmm.
it's something that you feel is appropriate for your family, stepping
Yeah.
away from the electronics. When you go to do these outside spending time activities or inside with your children, get a basket and decorate it up or however you want to do it, but pass the basket around, and that everybody has to put their phone in there. So
Hmm.
there's actual one-on-one communication time.
Yeah. Yeah. And recently, of course, there's all kind of games. My goodness gracious! I mean, there's games that I haven't even heard of. And when someone mentions, "Oh yes, the 25th edition," I'm going like,
Right?
"Really?" You know. And one of those 25th edition games that we tripped across, we bought the 25th edition. We had never heard it before. Was Phase 10. Phase 10.
I don't think I've heard of
And
it.
okay, well, you have now. But it's a fun game. But there's games like the little ladder and ball thing. It's a little ladder thing up, and you can throw the ball, and kids of all ages can play
Yes.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it is fun. Anything like that to get kids active, to get them involved,
Yes.
and just have fun and be able to sit down and talk, and
Mm.
have them buy in. Kids don't
Right.
want to be told what to do, just like we don't want to be told what to do, but kids want to be involved and they want to buy in on an idea. And
Right.
so that's where you as a parent comes into play because you know your kid.
Right.
What do they,
Exactly.
and Donna, you're very intuitive about that because that's just the way you are. In fact, women are a lot more intuitive than us guys are. We're just kind of like, yeah, it's close enough. That's good enough.
I think I made it. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. If not, we'll next time.
Right.
Mañana.
And when I lived in Kansas, and I bought it in Kansas, and moved it from Kansas to Ohio. But I had bought a full-size regulated air hockey table.
Mm.
I love air hockey. And at some point, my husband and I are going to play because he thinks he'll win. And it's just not going to happen. I am like really competitive in air hockey. And if you get hurt by the puck, ooh, so bad. Sorry.
Yeah. Suck it up.
Right.
Suck it up. That's why God made Band-Aids.
That's right. Wrap your hand and get going again. But I used to play. This was so much fun. I used to play in the winter because it was so dadgum cold outside. So I used to play air hockey with my kids, and there she is.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids used to say, "Mom, it's not fair. You're all grown up and you're big." I say, "Okay." So there was 4 paddles. And so I would give my 3 kids each a paddle, and it would be those 3 against me.
Mm.
And my kids just thought that was the funnest thing in the whole world because they were all going to gang up on mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, some days I'd let them get a shot, and other days I'd clean their clock.
That reminds me of a funny story. I forget who the baseball team was or the manager was. Someone out there will probably remember. But there was a baseball game going on, and the clouds were the fog was starting to come in. And, the manager was complaining, hey, my outfielders out there can't see the ball when it's hit. And
Right.
so, they can't see it. Obviously, they can't catch it, don't know where it went to or whatever. So, and the game was going to go on because the fog was going to clear up, right?
Right.
And so the manager gave each one of the 3 outfielders a baseball to take with them in their glove. And guess what happened when the ball got hit? 1 ball got hit. 3 baseballs got thrown back.
I somehow don't think that's quite right with regulations.
But it's the thought that counts. You got to understand that.
Right.
But when you tell them about the 3-on-1, that came to my mind. And, it's so important for kids to feel like they are important in the decision process.
And appreciate it.
Yes, that's critical.
Appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciated. So, another thing that I like to do and throw this out is when we have those unplugged days that are so necessary, or, in my case, it would also be if school was called off for cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
We would take turns and somebody would help prepare the meals. Right. So they love to be in there and learn to cook with me. So, one of them would come in and help prepare the meals. And then the other ones would have to, set the table and do cleanup and that kind of thing. But by taking those turns, everybody would compliment everybody else getting in there and making what we had to eat for that meal.
That's really amazing because getting them involved like that, it's just, and you got to find something that inspires them.
Mm-hmm. And a common denominator.
Yes. And I'm going to share another story about a student that I had. He was very intelligent. Everything that I was teaching, he already knew because he had been in the Signal Corps for some time. And I'm teaching 31 uniform, which is the 3126 now in the Army. 31 uniform, 31 Romeo now, 26 Romeo, excuse me, I'm sorry. But anyway, he's sitting there and the whole time his arms are crossed like this. He's paying attention, but his arms are crossed. He has closed me out.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I came across something and I says, hey, would you take this voltmeter and go around and check? And of course, he's one of these real technical minded individuals.
Right.
He wants to measure things by the thousandths when it comes to, direct current, ohms, amps, all that stuff. That's his world. That's the way his world turns. Mm-hmm. And so I got him to go around and check all the different things, and he has lit up like a Christmas tree. He loved it.
Right. You found his love language.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't do that, and your kids are sitting there and they're all crossed-armed like that, and they're just sitting there because they feel like they have to sit there. You gotta stop right there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're pushing a chain uphill. You got to find a common denominator. You got to find something that they're interested in. And
right.
It may not be easy, but it can be found because every kid has a special niche. They have a special ability, talent. Mm-hmm. And your job is to have them demonstrate their talent
for everyone else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they shine. And age has nothing to do with it. Doesn't matter if the kid's 8, and that student I talked about was about 28. Age is irrelevant.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I like, in the winter, with winter coming up. Now, I don't know. You don't normally have real bad winters there. I know last year y'all did.
Oh yeah, we caught up for about 29 years.
But when it's snowing and blowing and it's just, ugly to be outside. You kind of got to plan those outside days. So there's, just a boatload of things that you can do inside, and especially I love the one, and I think a good majority of us have seen it on Facebook. But if you have smaller kids, I love what they've done is they go out and they got boxes, just big boxes. And then they colored it and they made it like it was a little car. And lined it with a blanket and pillows. And then you have a movie and you're in your drive. The kids are in the drive-in movie, right? How much fun is that they get to decorate their own little drive-in movie car and put their favorite blankets and their pillows and stuff in it. And have it. And then, then you can have your popcorn and your drinks and snacks, whatever it is you want. But how much fun is that? Because you can actually, have a day or two, however long it takes you, leading up to that big day. And oh my gosh, when they're little, that just builds that momentum and builds that momentum. And, for me, with my children, I fed off of that excitement, I loved watching my kids get all excited about something.
Yeah. One thing that we played here recently on a family get-together, we played family trivia. Nice. And one of my sister-in-laws, she says, I went to high school with this guy. He was a very famous singer. Okay, so then we started asking questions, okay? And, what venue of music was he in? He was rock and roll. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And what was he named for? Well, he only really had a couple of songs. Okay. But he's well known because of what happened to him.
Richie Valens.
Yes. That's him. That's who she went to high school with. And I don't want to say who I suggested because I was doing it in one of my funny moods. I says, you went to school with Beethoven? That was not the correct answer. That was not even a good answer. But, we all got a kick out of that. But family trivia would be something interesting that, you can make up. You could, get questions and stuff like that. And also think about the family history.
Right.
Because a lot of that is poof when grandma or grandpa or even mom and dad pass away.
Oh, yeah. It is.
Like I've got a brother and sister buried in Sunset Cemetery in Shelby, North Carolina. But I only went to the grave one time with my dad, and I was about 14, I think, maybe 15. I wasn't old enough to drive because I was riding, shotgun, as we used to call it back in those days.
Right.
But I got an idea where the graves are, but I could not. We went over there and we walked and couldn't find them. And that is pitiful because that's my brother and sister's grave and I can't even find it,
Right.
And, it's really tragic when something like that happens because that's why family history is important, because a lot of times kids do not understand what some of their ancestors did.
Right.
Some of the accomplishments they, did. And then you make these cards up. It's going to take some time, but, you make these cards up with the question and the answer, and then you pass around, have the kids, read the question.
Right.
Yeah. And play. Yeah. Because that would be a good educational tool about the family, about the roots where they came from, because kids need to know that they didn't come from a bunch of baboons. And, I'm not talking about evolution. I'm talking about, flunkies, because we all have our black sheep in the family. We all have our ancestry where people went above and beyond the call of duty as good servants to people.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is something kids need to understand. Normally what you hear about is the black sheep of the family. because that's always on the everywhere, but that is something that would really be interest. And then they would have an interest in the family. They will ask, what's amazing is when you interest kids in something. Donna, how many times as a mother has your kids asked you a question? Kind of like, wow.
A bunch.
Yeah.
A bunch.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's awesome. Or when they'd ask a question and I'd be like, holy smokes, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
Right? How they even, know to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
no kidding.
It's amazing. And, everybody, I don't care who you are, where you are in life. We all, like Jim said, all have an incredible history. And that is what has made America great.
Yeah. And it reminded me,
here.
And people around the world.
Yes.
And I got to tell you a funny story, if I may, out of school. We were in basic training. And I was so young and so dumb in those days, I was still trying to learn how to spell Army. And this big, huge sergeant major came up. And he's got his hands on his hips. And he says, boys, let me tell you something. I'm proud to be in this man's army. And he goes on and on and on. Says, my grandfather, he talks about his family history. He fought with George Washington, and this guy fought, who was one of my great-grandfathers or whatever ranking they were. He fought with, General Pershing. And my grandfather also, my great-grandfather fought with this guy. And then he says, and my grandfather was with Teddy Roosevelt, and he went up San Juan Hill. He fought with him too. And this guy was sitting there and says, hey, well, man, sounded like his family couldn't get along with anybody. And we all cracked up. But the point of it is that this guy was very proud of his family history. He had a long military family history. And he was proud to look up to these men of honor and dignity. And the same is true with your kids, because they can look up to your family members. And so many times it's the little things that they did.
Right.
The loving and caring heart of doing something, being known for doing something for someone and didn't want anybody to know about it. No recognition.
Right.
That's impressive to a kid.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Jim, what are some of your favorite fall time activities? I know I loved raking leaves with my kids because it had to be done. But before we bagged them and put them away, we made sure we got the biggest pile we could, and we all jumped in them and had a good time.
Oh, yeah. We had a dog used to do that, and that was a lot of fun watching him do that and rake up the leaves and watch him do that. And, of course, I lived in Arizona for 20 years, so we did not have all the normal things that folks have back east with all the cold weather and all that. Yeah. And so that wasn't any need for a sled, but some of the things that I remember from my childhood that we did, coming in for hot chocolate.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if you live in a mild climate, you can, and going down the road playing freeze out in a car, that is tremendously fun for all ages, to see who's the first chicken to roll up the glass because they're getting too cold.
Right.
But there was just so many things that you can do like that. And my kids, of course, growing up in Arizona, they didn't have the need for a sled or the regular winter sports. But we used to play trivia, and we played a lot of board games in our house. We sure did. And to this day, Lisa, when she comes up, we play a lot of different games, and because she enjoys those. And bingo's a fun game. It's just not for old folks or something like that. It's for all ages. And it's very easy to set up, and let the kids take turns calling out the numbers.
Right.
Those are the little things you can do to get them involved. It really is.
Right. And it also helps, especially when they're really young, it helps them identify their numbers a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And goodness, that when it comes to board games, card games, and stuff like that, uh, kids can really bond closer to you because that's the mission. Become become bonded to the point where they know that they know that they know that they can sit down comfortably with you and
Mhm.
talk to you about a topic that is bothering them.
Right. Right.
Because if you don't have any rapport with a kid and a kid's getting bullied at school, yeah,
Tough times.
yes, it is. It's real hard on the kid. And I grew up like I only had one guy bully me in school, and I put up with it for about 6 months. And then finally, I just lost my temper. And we went out to recess. Now this guy, he was big for his age anyway, and I was small for my age. Plus, he had flunked 2 grades, so you can imagine the difference in size.
Right.
And it was my turn to get up to bat, and we're on the playing ground there at the little elementary school I went to. I get up to bat, and I'm like this, got my bat there, and he decided he wanted back, so he just walked up behind me and shoved me. Get out of the way. I'm gonna bat. And I went flying into the dirt, skint my nose a little bit. I mean, I face first into the dirt.
Right.
And finally, I just said, "This is it. I'm gonna take care of this today." I picked up my ball bat, walked around behind him, and he went down like someone yanked a carpet up under his feet. And at first, it scared me because, oh my gosh, I may have killed him. Then I heard him moan and groan. I thought, oh my gosh, he's not dead. He's going to kill me. So from that day forward, he never bothered me again.
Right.
Now, I'm not endorsing kids hitting other kids with ball
not
bats.
endorsing violence. That is
I'm
not
just
what
saying
Tim's
that I didn't have anyone to talk to.
right.
I felt like I was on an island, and that's what kids go through.
Mhm.
They feel like they're on an island. They don't know who to talk to, who to turn to. They don't know how to handle that.
Right.
It's like a cement block being tied around their necks, and they're trying to swim across a lake, trying to keep
Right.
their head above water. And that's why communication with kids and letting them know that they can come to you and talk to you about anything at any time. And you will sit down with them and you will find an answer, because there is an answer out there, because bullying in school needs to stop.
Absolutely. Intolerance in general toward anybody and bullying
Yes.
toward anybody in general is absolutely needs to stop. There is no
Yeah.
room for it. There is no room for it in my life. There's no room for it. I don't want to be around those kind of people.
Not at all.
No.
And Donna and I are very selective on who we, do anything with. And we're
Right.
very selective who we allow in our inner circle, because, when we do, like Dr. Grant, oh my goodness gracious, the Academy of Wellness, he spent 1 hour on the phone this morning evaluating my wife with the AO scanner, and he did it free of charge. And if you mention that you saw it here on the TV show, just go to academyofwellness.com. You can fill out the wellness IQ he's got there, send it to him, schedule a time. He will give you 30 minutes free evaluation.
Right.
And he does that AO scanner, and I'm telling you, that is a 3D MRI.
Yep.
It will blow your mind, ladies and gentlemen. I give him my word on that. And Dr. Grant's a team player, and that's why we're so honored to be with him. And these good people out of Canada, they were kind enough to send me and Donna some coffee, and they just wanted our opinions on it. And we just
coffee company.
Yeah. Have you tried the Peabody yet?
No, I haven't, but I will get to it this weekend. I tell you what, I've drank coffee for probably I know more than 50 years, because I used to sneak my mama's coffee as a little girl, probably 4 or 5 years old. She's like, where the hell my coffee go? I don't know, Mommy. But I love coffee. But, as we get older, etc. But I've always hated bitter coffee, or when you get to the coffees on the coffee pot and you get to that last cup of coffee it's got that burnt,
Acidy taste. Yeah.
acidy taste. And I got to be honest with y'all, the Yemen Coffee Company.
Yeah. Mocha bun.
Mocha bun. These people are amazing. There is no acidity. I mean, what is there is so minute, I can't taste it, and smooth. Wow.
Yeah. It's gourmet coffee.
Yeah, it is. It is. And a lot of their coffee, if not all of it, I'm not sure. I can't say 100%, but I know the ones that we have are hand dried.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
they take pride in their coffee.
Processing in that drying. They just lay them out and dry them that way. And so that's one of the reasons that there's less acid in their coffee.
Yeah. They don't take any shortcuts. It's real good coffee, and they've been kind enough to us. We've had them on the radio show, and they sent us some coffee and wanted us to get their opinion. And they're instantly becoming some marketing partners with us. So we want to, be able to pay it forward and bless them, because that's what you do in life. You look for ways to bless others first, and then, the blessings will come to your way.
Absolutely.
And that's Donna's website there, donnaguinois.com. She is a high energy right now kind of a coach. In fact, that's her email address. Just Donna Guinois, high energy right now at gmail.com. And Donna she's got a lot invested in herself as far as overcoming things. And Donna, the reason I mentioned that during the show here is because we're talking about communication with kids. This episode you went through, this marathon you went through, you couldn't even put together a complete sentence for 2 years?
Yeah, right out about 2 years. Yeah. And it was troubling. It was troubling. I couldn't, my kids had come to me to ask me a question. They were teenagers, and I'd be like, well, okay, and I could see it, but I couldn't get the word out, because after my third brain surgery in 14 months, my body and my brain were tired. They were just flat tired. And so honestly, it took about 2 years to get there. And, I would have to write things out oftentimes, or we'd play the guess what it is. And so, it was difficult, but I'm saying that, overcoming that and learning at a young age how to communicate with your parents and you with your children makes all the difference in the world, folks. And and spending time together with your children will enhance that, so that as they grow, they'll lean on you more, right? And they'll come to you in their time of need. And, like in my case, after my brain surgeries, I, wasn't allowed to lift anything over 10 pounds for quite some time, et cetera. They waited on me hand and foot because they knew it had to be. And they didn't do it because they had to. They did it because they wanted to, because they loved their mama.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're talking right there. I'm looking up a previous episode. We had this, I'm trying to think, what we were talking about was homeschooling week. And we had Howard Berg on there.
Oh,
and his email, howardberg.com, BERG, howardberg.com. And what he said was about, let me give you the, let's see here. I think it's on this one here. I'm not sure. Anyway, he was talking about having kids to just read for 5 or 10 minutes at a time so they can comprehend. And the reason that would be important in getting the family together is have them to, read a little bit about something, be it family history or whatever.
Right.
And I'm looking for the exact show, because if you folks go to, if you folks go to our YouTube channel, Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show, and I think it is, let's see here. Nope, it's not that one there. I'm trying to find Howard's show. It's season 3. I know that. I think it might be episode. It's either 1, 2, or 3. So it's either season 3 episode, start with 21, 22, 23. And it's just amazing what he shared there, because
Absolutely.
this will help you with your kids to get an interest in reading, and to get them involved in their school, and also get involved with, just learning in general. Make learning fun, and make
Right.
learning, being part of the family, make it fun. That's what I'm trying to, when I'm trying to look at something and try to talk to, it's a real challenge for me. It's kind of like pushing a chain uphill,
But that spending time with your family gives your kids, as we know, the foundation that they need to build that strong, healthy root system, if you will. And doing things together and having everybody buy into each person's likes. It's not everybody's going to agree 100% all the time, but understanding that each person has a special interest in this is what makes the dynamic of the family, of our universe, folks, beautiful and interesting.
Oh, yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, guess who we're going to have on the show tomorrow?
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Mr. Preston Martelli. He's going to be with us. And Preston was the one we talked about earlier in the week, about him and his family. They decided to go around the world on a year-long vacation. He actually lived the laptop lifestyle career.
Yes, he did.
And his kids got an education of a lifetime and an experience of a lifetime. And they left, I think he said, with 8 suitcases, and they came home with 2. But so he's going to be here.
I'm sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, please.
Well, we were just so excited about it, been talking about spending time with family. And since we had brought it up earlier in the week, Jim and I talked about it, and Jim said, you know what? I'm going to reach out and see if he's available and bring him on. So that y'all can hear from his own words the amazing things that they did together as a family on this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had him on a show. If you go to YouTube, the Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show, go all the way down to season 1, episode 5, The Google Geek. Preston shared with us, we had him on the show for the entire hour. Preston shared with us all the Google Geek shortcuts that can be a blessing to you. I'm going like, Preston, we got to take this to the TV. We got to take this TV land. So don't miss that, ladies and gentlemen, because that's very, very important, because there's many things he knows about TV. I'm looking at the timer up there, about Google. He'll save you a bunch of time.
Yes. And a bunch of frustration and heartache.
Oh, yeah. Aggravation and I don't know what all.
Right.
Oh, Donna, my goodness gracious. Where's this hour gone?
I know our time's up, Jim. But guys, we are going to be back, folks. We are so excited to come back tomorrow and wrap up this week about spending time with family.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how Preston shares about how all that came about. I think he's told the story before, but I don't remember. I don't either. But we're going to find out tomorrow. Be sure and tune in with us, because we're going to be live on Facebook. We're going to be live on YouTube video, YouTube Live. We're going to be live on E360 TV, on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, all those good places. For all you good people around the world who's been tuning into our show, thank you very much.
Thank you.
From the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate it. So, Donna, I'm out of quarters. What do we do?
We're going to have to end the show, Jim.
Oh, goodness gracious. If you don't pay, you can't play.
Right?
Folks, we've had a wonderful time. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Please, like the show and share the show with others. And meeting the Google Geek, having him on tomorrow, and hearing the story about him and his family, that is going to be infotaining and entertaining too. So you might want to have your kids tune in and watch that one there, because it's going to be very interesting what they learned.
Right. Well, that's it, guys. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same station, same channel. And we will be wrapping up our week. We hope that you have an incredible afternoon, morning, or night, wherever you are.
Yeah, whenever you see this. Thank you so much. We hope you have a blessed day, evening, and most importantly, we hope you and your family are healthy and happy. Be sure and love yourself first, then you can love others. And be sure and laugh at yourself once in a while. Donna laughs at me every opportunity she gets, whether she
That's
needs it or
okay,
not.
because I laugh at myself too.
I hear you. Donna, it's been a real pleasure being here with you today. Thank you.
Jim, it's always an honor to be with you. Folks, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, folks.